If you have a hard time saying no to someone without feeling guilty or worrying what they think, this episode is for you. My name is Dara Thomason, and this is episode 246, Saying No Guilt-Free to Get More Done, on the podcast called Love Yourself Thin. All right, so this is going to really help so many of you who are uncomfortable with this whole situation of saying no and having to explain yourself. But we're going to go even further. We're going to go to, when you're in those conversations with people and you really want to just be home doing your own thing, but there's those awkward silences and there's not a break in the conversation and you would feel weird or rude saying, yeah, I got to go. If any of this sounds familiar, listen. As a life coach who helps women learn how to live a life they want instead of the life they have subconsciously wired, the way you think and your patterns of thinking were primarily formed as a child. So unless you go intentionally into your brain and see those the way you were wired and then rewire those, you will always just be doing the same things that you've been doing since you were 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 years old. Okay? That is just the way it is. Each one of us is different and unique because some of us, if we're feeling stressed or worried, we overtalk. Some of us, if we're stressed or worried, we shut down. Some of us will go have a nap. Some of us will go eat a whole bunch of chocolate. Some of us will go shopping. Some of us will go play video games. Some of us will go drink wine. Some of us will do all sorts of things. Okay? So this is why having a life coach and having rules to understand how the brain works and how we can help rewire our brain, that's where we can get so much power. And that's why it's worth spending time learning about how we learn, how we think, and how we are wired, so how we can change that. So let's go to this example of my client. So she is a recent widow, and it's been very interesting for her to navigate life as a widow. Most of her adult life has been marriage and raising kids, and now she's a grandma. She and a friend have started this Learn How to Sew class. She's really enjoying it. They had one this past week, and the one lady that came after the class was over, they just talked for 2 hours. She is a chatty person, very friendly, but she also has a lot of things she likes to do. She also really loves her alone time. And so she's finding herself, standing there and questioning her thinking, questioning like, I don't want to be here. Is there something wrong with me? What's happening? Okay. And then she was able to see so she came to the coaching and she was just not sure what she should do in those situations. And she brought up something from childhood. This wiring comes from our childhood. When she was young, she had a very happy childhood, her parents, everything. But she used to say, I want to be a hermit. So she comes to this call and says, I think I just want to be a hermit. And I said, I 100% disagree with you, because if you really wanted to be a hermit, you would not be part of a group coaching call. You would not be asking for help in improving your life, because a hermit just lives for themselves and they don't need to improve because they're just doing their own thing and their life has zero impact on anyone else. So when I called her out on that, she was getting curious. And I said, okay, so what was really the issue? And she said, well, I enjoyed my time sewing. So she asked me, she's okay, so what's going on? I asked her, what was the problem? Did you enjoy your time teaching her to sew? Yes, I enjoyed that, she said. Did you enjoy your conversation? She said, yes, for the first 30 minutes. But I started to think, I've got this project I want to work on. I have other things I would rather be doing. And so now her head is thinking, how do I get out of here? Instead of actively participating in the conversation, she's trying to figure out, when can I say I need to go? And now she's all in her own head of, what do I do? How do I do this? I don't want to be rude. I don't want people to think I'm a certain way. And so then after 2 hours and it's all over, she's exhausted. So the reason she's exhausted is because she's not being with herself and she's not being who she wants to be. One of the struggles that we have, especially when we look and through the lens of weight loss, is when we're in our head and we're having these debates and feeling really uncomfortable, that's taking up a lot of energy. In our wiring, we have what's called the motivational triad: stay safe, seek pleasure, and conserve energy. Back in the day when we didn't have grocery stores, we definitely didn't have refined sugar or flour. We really depended on the weather if there was things that were growing. And we also depended on the men who went hunting. If they didn't find anything, we would be hungry. So our body is actually built to be very, very careful about how it spends its energy. Have you ever had that experience where you might have gone for a big run or on the treadmill, or you were doing a bunch of weights and you had a fit tracker or something that said you burned 523 calories? And it was a ton of work to do that. Then you eat a chocolate bar and you look at the calorie count, and within 2 minutes of eating this chocolate bar, it was the same as the full, hour or so of running and exerting so much energy. Our bodies are very efficient at burning energy because of the way we were wired. So this client of mine is spending a lot of energy in her head thinking, I don't want them to judge me. I don't want them to think I'm rude, but I don't want to be here. And I've had enough time and I really just want to go home and put my feet up and do some hand stitching. So if you find yourself in this situation where you are feeling exhausted, you're feeling depleted, you're feeling like you just want to say no, but you don't want people to judge you, this is the first step. The first step is just acknowledge, yeah, that's where I am. The second step is realizing that our thinking patterns, do you often feel like you can hear your mom's voice in your head and you're like, why is my mother in my head? It's because you adopted her thinking patterns and you never rejected them. You just allowed them to be there. I have another client who she'll be really good all day and then she lives by herself. She's in her 60s. She has no one to answer to. But she'll say, okay, tonight you need to go to bed at 10 or 9:30. You have to shut everything down at 9:30. But then she'll say to herself, well, I don't want to go to bed at 9:30. And so she starts having this whole rebellion. But there's no one she needs to rebel against because she lives by herself. When I coached her on it, she realized how she is just carrying all of these expectations that she never really explored or gave herself permission to say, do I want to keep these expectations from my mom, my grandma, my aunties, and my father? Do I want to keep them or say, thank you, but we're done now, we're complete? Do you see how even though we're 60 or 70 or 50 or 40 or whoever, even 30, even 20, even though we're certain ages, we don't live with our mom and dads anymore, we're still holding those patterns. Now, there's a lot of you, even this client of mine, she had great parents. But when we went a little deeper, I said, why would you want to be a hermit? She opened up and talked about how she didn't appreciate how people thought she should be different. So she was more of a tomboy. She didn't want to talk about clothes and perfume and hair. That wasn't interesting to her. She had a lot of fear of people teasing her and bullying her for not conforming. So that's where this whole hermit thing came in. Her brain says, well, if anything goes bad, I'll just go be a hermit. I'll go self-isolate. We talk about the motivational triad of stay safe, seek pleasure, conserve energy. We want to avoid a problem, resist a problem, or react to a problem. So a lot of us will avoid, and being a hermit is definitely a top avoidance. Now, when we turn to food, it's a way to quiet the noise. When we're in conversations that we don't want to be in, it's kind of a way to try to quiet our own noise and saying, oh no, we need to be a good girl. We need to be like everyone else. We need to get their approval. The third thing we need to do is learn to say no, and learn that no is a complete sentence. What we want and what we think matters because we matter. We don't have to explain ourselves to other people. We don't have to justify our actions. We can just say no, and that's all. All right. How does this have anything to do with eating? How does this have anything to do with you feeling empowered in your life? What has this have anything to do with your quality of life? Unless we start discovering what's really going on, we can't get the resolution. The way that I define guilt is you deny yourself an emotion. So if someone compliments you, you say, oh no, I'm not that wonderful. Or when you have two opposing thoughts, one could be, I love my life and I want more. I love my husband, but there's some things I don't love. So we can feel guilt, right? Having those two conflicting. So what I want you to do is I want you to practice just saying no. And when you say no, you're like, can you do this? No. The other thing we did, she looked at me and she said, you mean I could just say to them, that was really nice to spend time together. I need to go now. Bye. When you bake brownies or bread or cook meat or make any meal, or once it's done, it's done. You put the brownies in for 40 minutes. If you put them in longer, they burn. And so she said, she was joking. She said, so just put a fork in me and I'm done. You can just say, thank you so much for this time together. I'm going to go. Even though I had nothing else scheduled or planned, you had time scheduled for yourself. You had your own creative time planned. Just being with yourself and having your own time, that's important. So I hope that this episode has really helped you think about things in a different way. I love the idea of a kaleidoscope because just as you turn it and look at it in different ways, it has all new patterns. My son got married this summer and I never had a child get married before. So I had all of these thoughts, these expectations for myself that I didn't even realize I had until I was all in it. My son asked me a particular question and I said, that's a good question, son. I thought that I was supposed to do things a certain way, but I can change that. I can change the way I'm thinking. I don't have to stay up till 3 a.m. before the wedding doing food. I don't even have to make any food for my son's wedding. I can do how I want to do it. So here's your question as I leave this episode. What would happen if I gave you a magic potion? Okay, so right now my sons and I are watching Merlin. It's a wonderful series. Arthur and Merlin and the Knights of the Round Table, they've done a really good job. So imagine that I'm Merlin. I knew how to do magic, let's put it that way. And I could do a magic spell that would make you never feel guilty ever again. How different would you live your life if you never had to worry about feeling guilty or hurting other people's feelings or impacting people in a negative way? What would you do? How different would you feel every morning when you wake up, knowing that you didn't have that burden? Spoiler alert. You can just learn how to not feel guilty. So when guilt starts coming around, you say, oh, we don't do that. Oh, that's not how we roll anymore. So just like those people who thought that the earth was flat and they start talking and they're like, oh yeah, we're worried that the boat's going to fall off you're like, oh, wait a minute. That's not how it works anymore. We were wrong. It's the same thing. And this client of mine, it was like seeing her face light up. It was like she was a 5-year-old that got the most special doll in the world on Christmas morning. It was this amazing revelation. So if you want more revelations, if you want more joy, if you want to learn, rewire this beautiful brain of yours, start taking out those tangles and all those complications, I invite you to come to the Quilter's Life Summit. There I'm going to be teaching some amazing classes on how do we stop procrastinating so much? How do we let ourselves fail? How do we start just doing things and not worrying about being a perfectionist? And what about that whole people-pleasing thing where people can just be them and we're allowed to just be us? These classes are going to help you be more productive, more happy and satisfied in life. And if you want to just not wait until the summit, you can book a call with me and I can talk to you more. I can help you see what's really stopping you in your life and we can start creating the life that you really want to live. So those are your 2 choices. I can't wait to see you in our next episode.